Thank you very much. It's great to be here, and it's wonderful to be given an opportunity to share some of my vision for how we can shape a better future for education. For me, I started the company to transform the educational experience. I wanted to break down barriers, improve quality, and do a lot. I've learned a lot of things over the years from a lot of the great people that we've had an opportunity to work with and from the experiences that we've had. One of the biggest challenges that exist in education today is the huge demands that are on the system. In many regions, many schools, quality is suffering. In large part due to budget cuts and major pressures on the system. But many of you are probably unaware of the huge opportunities of growth in the system. So for example, in higher education, how many new students are coming into the system in the next 14 years? 5 million, 10 million? It's actually 100 million new students that are expected to arrive by 2025. That's not a little number, that's almost doubling the current population in higher education. So where's all this, well, how's this all gonna happen? This is a lot of pressure to add to that existing system. For me, this is the most critical problem for any generation to solve, because society itself and the quality of society is defined by the quality of the graduates that we put out. And for me, the system, as you can see here is these slides, probably many of you recognize. Standardized testing, one-size-fits-all curriculum that's taught to everybody at the same way is not the answer. We have to move beyond that. We have to understand that the most important elements of the curriculum is not the testing, it's the journey. We have to understand that it's really important for us to go from content knowledge and transfer and assessment to understanding how we want to define the learning attributes of the students for the future. It's the attributes that we impart, the values that we impart, that are the incredible and valuable part. So for me, developing individuals is by far the most important thing that we need to do. We need to empower more teachers, not fewer teachers. Give them the tools to be very successful at being a great coach, inspiring people, helping them personalize the educational experience, and being able to deliver higher quality. So how do you do this? You've got a huge growth in the system. You've got quality concerns. How do you personalize? How do you accomplish this? Technology is just one part of the answer. And as technology is used more and more, we need to make sure that that learning environment is more personal, more driven around you as an individual. So how? How are we ever going to accomplish all this? All that growth, improve that all that quality. And a lot of it has to focus around what I think is really important, which is the quality of the personalization, the individualization of that curriculum, making sure that you're being respectful of that individual and helping them grow and mature. So what's at the heart of that? It's nurturing that desire to learn. It's the ability for you to impart those values and attributes that are going to be really important to help that student in a very undefined future. We need to give them the skills to be able to go out into the world and be able to do whatever is needed around the corner and be able to continue to grow and continue to learn. And for me, building a company, lifelong learning is a critical element of that. Because one of the things that I've seen over the years is that if you don't invest in learning, what you're doing is you're depreciating your most valuable asset as a company, your human capital. And this is a big issue, and it's not going to just rest on the educators to solve this problem, by the way. It's all of us that need to tackle this issue. So, goal setting is one of the attributes that I think is really important. And I brought some things along to sort of help visualize the building of these attributes. For me, setting a goal that's driven by yourself personally is much more important than goals that are pre-described for you. You're always more apt to want to buy into it, to want to actually deliver on it. This is actually a picture of me. My goal was simple. It was to take that tricycle that's down in the corner and upgrade it to a Honda 50. And anyone know what a Honda 50 is? It's a great motorcycle for a grade 2 student. That's my sister in the corner. And our strategy was simple. 20 cents for Kool-Aid for tourists, 10 cents for locals. And if you do the math on that, that's a lot of cups of Kool-Aid to buy a Honda 50. And the best strategy that I employed during that exercise wasn't trying to sell one at a time. It was actually when I discovered that if you sell 10 cups of Kool-Aid and give one away for free, Kids that would normally buy one or two would actually go running around to their parents' house or their neighbor, through the neighborhood, finding whatever coins they could find to come back to get that one for free. And we were able to accomplish the goal a lot faster. It was interesting. My parents are great educators. They taught me that I needed to rent the coolers, rent the stand, pay for the Kool-Aid. I had to make sure that all those expenses were taken care of. But for me, it was the journey, not the outcome, that was important. You know, and many times we're actually measured based upon the achievement, but I think the achievement is the journey. And I think that's a big change that we need to rethink. Another one, when I came to the University of Waterloo, you know, a lot of people talk about problem solving as a critical skill, but for me, it was actually problem finding. I'll just, like for example, there's an unconnected piece there. I need to be able to not just solve problems, but for me, it was actually the finding of problems that sparked my entrepreneurial journey. You know, my third year project was an open-ended project. Find something that you're inspired by, that has meaning, and solve the problem. And I was struggling with this. My teammates were struggling with this. Electronic health records, what is it going to be? And then I saw someone walk by on crutches. And not because I was injured on my motorcycle, but I remember back when I was in high school and I injured myself playing basketball, how painful crutches were, going up and down stairs, getting around obstacles, slipping on the ice. It was not a fun exercise. And I thought, hey, there's something. I can reinvent how crutches work. And we talked about it and finally got buy-in from the group. And we went out and we did. We went all the way up to the engineering competitions. And we're very successful at coming up with a new design that got around a whole bunch of problems with existing crutches. So for me, that sparked, this is my third year project, what else can I do? What else can I do that will improve society and I can apply my engineering skills? And I thought of education. And it sort of set me on the journey that I am today as a third year student and started the company. Turned down my job offers for co-ops and decided to do something a little bit more risky. So how do you solve this problem? You know, a lot of people just think, oh, well, innovation's the answer, right? Well, you don't get tasked as a student, go off and innovate and come back when you're done. 3 minutes later, here, I'm done early. That's not what happens. You need to find ways to build innovation into the teaching methodologies. You need to be able to figure out how am I going to allow students to explore, to integrate knowledge across different domains, be able to leverage all the knowledge that they've acquired over the years and be able to do it in creative ways. And that's a big challenge because it means also risking failure. And that's critical. We miss that all the time. It's okay to fail. You know, that's one of the reasons why standardized testing is not the right answer, because it's testing the outcome. Learning is the outcome. The test is just the endpoint. And students should be free to fail over and over and over. They should be able to try, experiment, fail. As long as they're achieving that outcome at the end of the day, that's what's important. That learning journey is the most important part. So how do we innovate as a company? Well, you know, last month we tried something really innovative. We gave this is a big risk, our accountants weren't very happy about this. We gave all 150 of our R&D staff the week off. Not to take a vacation, but to do something really innovative, whatever they wanted to work on. Our accountants were like, this is going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost opportunity. And we're like, it's worth the risk. And the outcomes were amazing. They're going to be part of our future story. The innovations are going to make it into our product. But most importantly, it taught our teams the creativity, the entrepreneurial spirits, the drive to try to push the boundaries. And that's what keeps us as a company really competitive, building products that delight users, that keep clients happy, and keep us in the leading edge. Innovation is a critical value. Let me just put that up here. But innovation doesn't happen in a bubble. You know, there's collaboration that is needed here. You know, one of the things that we've learned over the years is that the best innovations come out of groups working together, not individuals. We've got distributed workforces, we've got small teams scattered throughout the organization. We need to be able to learn from each other and build on the innovations from each and every one of us. For me, you know, creating global thinkers, collaborators, team players are a pretty big part of the educational curriculum, and it needs to be an ever bigger part. Because the future is going to be defined by our abilities to collaborate and really drive a lot of incredible innovation. One of the other ones that I wanted to talk about is passion. But before I get there, Maybe there's an attribute like juggling or acrobatics or cheerleading. Some of us don't have those skills. And it leads me to the point, which is these attributes need to be defined by you. These are your attributes. These are the things that are going to be really important to your development, your growth as an individual. And being an individual is perfectly fine. Not all of these are going to fit for everybody. Passion for me, though, is my favorite. If I look at myself, the thing that sparked my passion was figuring out what I wanted to do with my life. Transform education. That's something I can buy into. I could probably, be done probably in 10 years. I'm kidding. It's a lifelong journey. This is going to be something that will keep me burning and my desire burning all the time. And when I was walking around campus in my 4th year, and I finally turned down all my full-time job offers, and I said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to start this company. I'm going to keep it going. And people were, why are you smiling all the time? I'm like, because I actually know what I want to do with my life. But for me, building that passion in the organization is a key part of our success. Without that passion, it's a really tough journey. Because if you're not bought into it, you don't have that inspiration, then you're going to have a real struggle getting through tough projects. Such things like lifelong learning. If you don't have a passion for learning, you're not going to do it throughout your life. And that's a sad situation. And passion's not, it drives something else. This came from Steve Jobs. It's hard to tell with these internet startups if they're really interested in building companies or if they're just interested in the money. I can tell you though, if they really don't want to build a company, they won't lock into it. That's because it's so hard that if you don't have a passion, you'll give up. I can't tell you how true that is. It's one of the reasons why I value passion so much, and I hope that we can inspire this in our students. And so how do you do that? You have to uncover how to personalize that educational experience. You have to uncover how you really get them engaged, what motivates them, what drives them. You have to help nurture that passion in them and their ability to understand how to learn and carry that forward with them in their entire life. This brings me to another one of my attributes that I value a lot. And that's perseverance. And yes, that is me in a New York Islanders jersey. And that is some of my family, and we're all sharing one set of hockey equipment, if you can't tell. But if you got to have perseverance, we had to shovel the snow off the rink. We played for hours. The equipment was probably from the 1930s. But not once was I unsatisfied. The joy of being able to play day in, day out was something that drove me. And one of the most important parts of the curriculum that we need to continue to support is sports, is fine arts. We've got to stop taking away instruments from the musicians because it teaches us something. It teaches us the love of the activity, but it comes with an incredible amount of hard work and perseverance in learning that skill or picking up that sport. And it's not easy, but it teaches us the joys of perseverance, but it also teaches us how to fail. And for me, in building a company, one of the biggest lessons that I learned was as we were going through breakneck growth and adding client after client and growing faster and faster and faster, our main competitor sued us in 5 different jurisdictions all over the world. It was a painful experience. We were in a legal battle for 3.5 years. And picture yourself in a courtroom in Texas, and the jury comes back and says, you're guilty. You take one right on the chin. It's a tough battle. It taught me a lot about myself, our staff, our clients, our industry. And there's a saying, the strongest steel is forged in the hottest of fires. Well, we were in a very hot fire. But what was impressive to me is after we lost that verdict in Texas, before we actually even landed in Toronto, our team was energized. They had a plan. Here's how we're going to work with clients. Here's what we're going to communicate. Here's how we're going to keep things together. Here's the actions that we're going to take. And that was overwhelmingly impressive for me. That perseverance, that drive, that passion, all coming through. And for us, it took another year and a bit before we finally got vindication at the federal circuit level, where we finally won and have everything overcome. That's not an easy journey for anyone to take. We've got to instill the ability for our students to take risks, experience failure, try again, because without that, we're not going to build great learners, and we're not going to build great leaders. Imagine if Jim and Mike at RIM gave up after their first big battle. How different would Waterloo be today? You know, it takes a lot of energy and perseverance to build these great companies and great organizations. So perseverance, for me, is incredibly important. Because without that perseverance, everything else you build could easily topple. Thank you.